First of all, PPC has just published a proposition asking the states to censure Deputy Andrew Lewis after their findings. What does that mean, a vote of censure?
Okay, first of all, I'd just like to say that obviously anything I may say today is my own personal opinion, and any comments I make shouldn't be taken as representative of the collective view of PPC. What is a vote of censure? Well, PPC are somewhat tied or restricted in what we can do. A vote of censure is basically the States Assembly, if they approve it, agreeing that Deputy Lewis broke the code of conduct, he did not act with honesty and integrity and maintain the integrity of the States Assembly, and therefore effectively it is the strongest thing really the States Assembly can do to a sitting politician.
I thought you could suspend him.
You can, but the suspension only lasts 7 days. A vote of censure is more important because you are actually asking the States Assembly as a whole to voice their opinion of a sitting member. It's going to be very, very difficult for any member of the Assembly to continue as they are once they have a vote of censure against them. What will happen, should that proposition succeed, which I certainly hope it will do, is then really up to the States Assembly. Unless Deputy Lewis decides to resign as chairman of PAC, then I would imagine a member of the Assembly will probably bring a vote of no confidence in Deputy Lewis as the chairman of PAC.
Will PPC do that?
No, it's not up to PPC to do that. PPC's role is very clearly defined and somewhat restrictive in what we can and cannot do. It would be up to an individual member to bring that vote of no confidence. Personally, I would hope that Deputy Andrew Lewis, in the event that the vote of censure is approved by the States Assembly, acts with integrity and resigns as chairman of PAC.
But if he's found to be a liar, and lacking in honour and integrity, well, it's not just PAC. Surely he's got no place being a politician, has he?
That is again down to the electorate of the districts in Helier 3 and 4 that voted him in the first place. The problem we have with the current system is there's very, very little the electorate can do to remove a sitting deputy. It's different in the UK, where they have the ability to deselect somebody and then automatically there's a by-election. Over here we don't have that. Once again, personally I would hope that Deputy Andrew Lewis, should the vote of censure go against him, he would do the honourable thing and resign as a deputy. We'd have a by-election at which he's perfectly entitled to stand again, and it would be up to the electorate to decide, do we want Andrew Lewis as our deputy?
I just want to get on to the PPC hearing itself that you held with Andrew Lewis. Senator Philip Ballash was allowed more than 30 minutes to quote from a dictionary as to what a lie is or isn't, when the panel had already made it clear they're not there to discuss what a lie is or isn't. Wasn't there a lot of deference shown to Senator Ballash? Should he have been allowed those 30 minutes to quote from dictionaries? Would I have been allowed to do that? Would a member of the public been given that opportunity?
It's actually very interesting you raise that, because prior to the public hearing we had notification that Senator Ballash would wish to make a statement. I was opposed to allowing him to do that because the hearing was really about Deputy Andrew Lewis. And whilst the procedure that goes with these public hearings allows a deputy or sitting member of the States to have a friend with them, which can be a legal advisor or literally just moral support. So I was slightly against this. Now, the chairman of PPC, Constable Len Norman, advised me, no, we have to allow the freedom of speech during the public hearing so that at no time can later on PPC be criticised of not allowing a fair hearing. So again, I was slightly concerned about this. Yes, Senator Ballash did talk for a long time. His statement was quite long, but I actually now agree with Constable Norman that everybody has to be seen to be given a fair hearing. If Deputy Lewis felt that meant Senator Balash speaking for that length of time, then so be it. At least the hearing process can now not be criticised.
Okay, well, I'm criticising it for the opposite thing, but that's another thing. So I want to get on to one part in your proposition and report, and your propositions about the maximalisation letters.
Yeah.
And criticisms and the likes of. It reads, criticism was made by Deputy Lewis and Senator Balash for the care inquiry's processes, and the fact that Deputy Lewis was not allowed legal representation. Well, he was. He did have legal. He was. OJS were sort of helping him with it, as far as I know, and I stand to be corrected. And it says, and the legal practice of maximalisation, which allows persons who are to be criticised in an official report to respond prior to publication based on details of the criticism received in advance, was not followed by the inquiry. Now, my argument here is that Andrew Lewis signed up to give evidence to this inquiry. In this inquiry's protocols, and they made it very clear, there would be no maximalisation letters. So Andrew Lewis knew, or should have known, that he wasn't going to get any maximalisation letters. So how, I suppose, can PPC find in the favour of Senator Balash and Andrew Lewis when he signed up to something knowing that there would be no maximalisation letters?
I think you raise a very interesting point. It is something that I did argue in the meeting that PPC held prior to publishing this report. It was felt that because of the fact that the statement by the Independent Care Inquiry was so, how can I put it, forthright. The statement, he lied to the States Assembly and to this inquiry. Normally, one would expect to see a caveat round it, or the committee believes that he misled. To use the word lie is very, very strong wording, for good reason, I believe. And it was felt that because of the strength of the verdict, the finding of the care inquiry, it would have been appropriate to advise Deputy Lewis of it prior to its publication. I personally did not agree with that viewpoint. I agree with the view that you've put forward, but obviously we are a committee, it is a majority view, and unfortunately I was in the minority with that particular comment.
Okay, now I just want to go on to the PPC itself and what I see to be contradictory statements. At the hearing, the PPC hearing, the chairman, Deputy Len Norman, read from a pre-prepared statement saying, the hearing is not an opportunity to determine whether or not Deputy Lewis lied to the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry or the States Assembly. The committee does not seek to challenge the conclusion drawn by the Independent Care Inquiry. To me and any fair-minded person, that reads that they agree with the care inquiry, they don't seek to challenge it, they agree with it that Andrew Lewis lied. Now, on an article I've read today, it says 3 members, Constable Len Norman and Deputies Simon Bree and Sam Mezek, have found Andrew Lewis guilty of lying to the House in the Historic Abuse Inquiry. Meanwhile, 2 other members, Constable Chris Taylor and Scott Wickenden, say whilst he didn't lie, he misled the Assembly and did not seek to rectify it, blah-de-blah. So in one statement from Len Norman, we're getting, well, we agree with the care inquiry, he lied. And then now we've got 2 members, Scott Wickenden and Constable Chris Taylor, saying he didn't lie. So isn't PPC as guilty of misleading the public as Andrew Lewis is?
No, because the article that you have quoted from does not reflect the report that goes with the proposition that PPC has just lodged. We are unanimous in the fact that Deputy Lewis breached the Code of Conduct. Myself, the Constable St Clement and Deputy Mezek are in full agreement that the findings of the care inquiry, which we're not challenging, are enough evidence in themselves to say that he breached the code by lying. What Constable Taylor and Deputy Wickenden are saying is it's not appropriate to take that as the sole basis on which to determine that a breach of the code has occurred, i.e. PPC have not re-examined ourselves the evidence put in front of the care inquiry. They are unanimous, we as a committee are unanimous that he did breach it. What they are saying is it is not appropriate to take that as the sole basis for reaching that determination. I disagree with their viewpoint, but everybody's entitled to their own viewpoint. I personally feel that the evidence that the care inquiry have provided, the finding that they have reached, is quite clear. There is no ambiguity.
He lied.
He lied.
And so, I suppose on the final question, we need to wrap up now, and I want to thank you for giving me this interview, because you were the only one of the PPC that returned my email, although I only sent it an hour or two ago, so thanks for this. But do you have confidence that the states will deliver on the recommendation of the report, of the Jersey Care Inquiry report? And are you satisfied with the rate of progress, or lack of, thus far?
When the care inquiry report came out, I'm sure a lot of people, like myself, were very shocked to read what their findings was, the evidence that were given. At the time, a lot of statements were made by various politicians, including the Chief Minister, about how things were going to be improved, what was going to happen. We've had, obviously, the Commissioner for Children set up. I am slightly concerned that there does not seem to be the rate of progress that one would have hoped in changing the system that,
allowed this to...
Well,
no?
When children are put into the care of the state, their prime, or the state, the prime objective is their safety, their care and their nurture. Now, I am concerned that there is not, or does not appear to be, enough movement and changing the system. And there could be valid reasons why, but those are not being explained to us either. So I am a bit concerned that there has not been the rapid reaction and change to things.
But do you think it will happen, however slowly? Do you think there is a commitment by, a political commitment?
Yes, I think there is a political commitment. I think there is, at the back of everybody's mind, the fact that in May next year there will be an election. I would hate to see the care inquiry report used for, how can I put it, political opportunity by people. That's not what this was about. And we have to be very clear that what happened in the past can never be allowed to happen again, and we have to act now to change it.